Hey there! I just thought that I will show you how you would start if you think, oi, couldn't I make a world or something? Because I just thought that now. And so I started this recording and I show how would I start making a world. Well, at first I have VRChat Creator Companion open that I can just download on the VRChat website, and then I click on create new project and then a world. And of course, I use the 2022 version of worlds because at some point the 2019 will be yeah, not longer supported. So you also should download Unity with the version the VR chat website says is the one that you need. We will see it so or so which one it is exactly, because you usually just install that once and then just use VRChat Creator Companion because it will create a new project for you automatically. So I name this, I want to make an avatar tower. So how about Akinari avatar? Is there a word for tower with A? A would be cool. I name it tower for now. And the location is my Z yeah, gaming drive and Unity projects. So I create a new project and then I wait, because as someone who does anything with games, game design, game whatever, maps, modding, being creative with such things, you usually have to wait. I know in these days with yeah, with quick hard drives, we're already set up well, but there, 2022 322 F1 is the most current one. Good. So this here are the packages that will be also automatically included in that new project. What is, of course, the world's base, a package resolver tool, and VRChat SDK base. SDK is kind of a development kit. Um, hmm. The other stuff, I mean, we could put in world toolkit, easy quest switch. We should not need, I guess. It's more for avatars. Audio link, if you have a bar world. Here, Chat Fury is also more an avatar thing that automatically can install stuff others put on avatars. Silver shaders, avatar optimizer, that's all not needed, not really. And then we can go back. It is all in the most current versions. And then we have it here a few seconds ago. So far, not favorized. I usually do everything I'm still working on has a favorite button, more or less. So, and then we open the project. And that opens automatically Unity. And that will, again, take a bit. So here we see it is now in creation and installing the packages. In the background, I have Blender. You don't need to use Blender. You could, for example, just, I don't know, let's open Edge. I nearly never do this, but let's do this. For example, just Sketchfab, for example, is a website on which you can get free models. For example, medieval castle. And then you can see just what is downloadable and also nothing that has this red buying thingy on it. You don't want to buy stuff now. It is all here, for example. You see, why is this good to use? Because it is tileable. Yeah, you need to log in. It is something like you could copy it over because everything has these nice square shapes and you could puzzle yourself a room with these things. You just scroll and click on download model, and you usually, if you're logged in, would use something like FBX or OBJ file that is just drag and drop. Yeah. Be careful with those scans because they are usually way too heavy. You have to think that when people create those models, they make it kind of low poly. But when you scan something, it is like a million of polygons for one scan. Also, you can't change stuff because everything is in one single object. Okay, this is just I see. But when we, for example, have such a castle, everything is one thing and it is not separable. Also, from the outside, it looks fancy, yeah. But if you're in, okay, it still looks fancy indeed. So they had material in here, and it definitely would look cool if you just make a VRChat world that is super photorealistic and you can't do anything but walk around with a cool lighting in there. I would say that would be a cool map. Make a good lighting, give a good skybox, bring colliders on it so that you can walk in it, yeah. So if anyone wants to build a world out of this, why not? It is a super training to just make a world out of something like that and not doing anything else than creating a cool scene. Maybe like nature sounds played in the background and good lighting. And that's all. Yeah, I know. Why do you have here so weird iron work? Because iron usually is heavily reflective. And on photography, it creates weird artifacts for those 3D scanning softwares. The stones here are perfect because they are refractive and they are just they're just not reflecting so much like metals or mirrors or something like that. And those get captured not very well. This here is a lamp, I guess, the same because it has a mirror-like surface. Not so well. But yeah, indeed, usually I would say something like that is bad, but I mean, you could make a cool little scene that makes fun to visit. You could make here the spawn point, for example, and have everything here in the inner yard colliding in the inner court and going through the door, a long collider for the hall, for the walls. That could be a project for one evening. But also you could download it and put it in Blender and then do something like, for example, if we're in this object here and we kind of mark everything, then you could go to mesh and then you go to clean up and decimate geometry. I wouldn't do that on my mesh because it's already kind of low poly. But when you click there, then you have here the ratio 1 is normalized 100% and 0% and 0.5 would be 50% of the polygons that will be still there after the decimation. But if you decimate, you will create weird artifacts and holes maybe. So you can crank down models with that. So it's not, but definitely you should take a look at the texture if it's not too broken and scattered then. And if it's just one model and you have 500,000 polygons because it's a scanner, but it's just one, just this model in the world, then it's also okay. Yeah. This little tower here I made myself. I'm definitely not done so far, but you could just change stuff in future. You know, you could definitely come back in future and just continue. So for now, this might just be what you need. And you could already use it for making a world that you can at least upload and then test what to change. So this is usually what you get when you create a new project. With the right mouse button, you can just rotate around the camera. With WASD, you can go through the world. It is a bit slow, but if you then scroll the mouse wheel, it gets quicker, you know. See? Now it's quicker. And you have here in the hierarchy is everything you need. These are what is in your scene right now. On the inspector is the kind of properties of everything you click here. Like world, this is your spawn point. This is your spawn point, and every world needs at least this, so you can spawn there. And you have all the stuff like here, your jump impulse, your speed, when you're walking, running, strafing. And this will get a blueprint on upload. So then it's your special world ID that will be saved automatically. And everything else we don't need. You could say in which scales people can be, usually 20 centimeters to 5 meter. Nothing special. You could just like, you know, it's like XYZ axes, and you can just set it wherever you wanna. The next thing you have is the main camera. This is kind of, yeah, it is what you see. So you could go in VRC world, and then you drag and drop the main camera here to the reference camera. If you have multiple cameras, wherever you should need them, but it should be there. Directional light is your sun. It's just, you see the direction of your sun, and you could just like, if you press W, then you're in this mode to shift it. But a directional sunlight, the position doesn't matter. The sun is so large that it doesn't matter where it is. So we could just change the angle of the light. If we click E, then we have this ball, and we could just like change the angle of the lighting of the world. If we press R, then we would have the scale. That is the, you see them also here on the left. Scale tool is R. Yeah, there is also a T, the rect tool, that doesn't make sense. So you don't have anything here, because if you would have a box like the ground here, you could just box change the scale. You could just grab on one of the sides and just, and of course Control Z undoes it. Yeah, but for the sunlight, a scale doesn't make sense either. So the floor is just this wonderful gray thing, and you have a mesh. What is kind of the geometry of it? What is a plane here? Or no, it is a quad. It's said here. Also, this should not move, you know? You should early learn that stuff that you would not move, you click on static, because that saves computation power. If something is animated, an avatar, or you animated, or something like that, then it's not static. But everything that is static, the computer does not need to think about all the time, you know? And a mesh collider is also weird, doesn't need it. I mean, of course you need a collider, so you don't go through the world, but a mesh collider, I think, is not the best solution. And then the other thing here is the material slot. For example, you could make it a bit brighter, if you want. You could make a complete own material with that contains out of textures, of course, so kind of pictures on them. So I said we need a collider, yeah, but a mesh collider is kind of heavy. I think that a box collider is here, everything that is needed, because it is kind of a box, you know? Is trigger should be unchecked if it's a collider. Because when it's a trigger, you can't collide with it anymore. Then it is more like a zone that says, oh, you know, on code, you could say, when I enter this zone, when I exit this zone, when anything is colliding with this zone, but just colliding. So, and then on this edit collider button, you see where the collider is. And in this case, it is already set correctly. So you have a collider. And now, even with a little bit of width of height, I don't like when colliders don't have any height. Okay, but maybe it is better to have the height in the other direction, because you don't want to fly above your no, like that. I don't like when colliders seems to have no yeah, no depth, but also, I mean, no. Z is usually the axis we are aiming for. Aha. 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 That's good, because that Z is usually the height. And event system is something that is old and should be replaced. So bam, done. Your world is ready. You could upload it now, because then, I mean, you would just have a standard skybox and a plane to walk on. You just log in here, like I am this, Kitsunaki, and then I search for my VRChat password, and then I type it in here, and then it says, oh, what is your safety thingy that is changing every few seconds? Then I search for this on my smartphone. Oh, I love these times in which you always have to put in codes and stuff and this and that. No, you can't use it. You will have an own thing. Oh, that's new. That is a new thing. It looks a bit different now. That's the first time I see it like that. But I can, of course, I mean, it's the same, just in another UI. So I call it Akinari Avatar Tower. Maximal capacity, yeah. So maximum 32 players are possible and 16 are recommended. You don't need to change that. If you have a vast area like this here, you could also crank that up. Content warnings. Yes, that is a very sexual suggestive plane. I'm totally turned on by it. But yeah, nothing of this should apply to this here. Tags. You can up to 5 tags. What is this? Avatars. Avatars make sense because it will be an avatar tower. Another tag that makes sense here. It is indeed a tower, but tower is also in the name. An avatar is too. So you wouldn't need that exactly. Gothic, because the tower is in Gothic style. We will see. For now, it is enough. We could add more. We could also capture in scene what the camera sees, you know? So you could go to the main camera and just change what the camera sees. That's totally fine. At least it was like that. When you just put in here, fill background. So you could just cut out the skybox, use custom camera, use the main camera. Yeah, so everything here doesn't make sense. So capture, description, a created avatar world by Akinari Fox, sorted by likes of all my followers, because that's what I want to do. You know, the most voted up avatars will be highlighted here in future. This scene uses textures with box bitmap filtering. Just a click autofix. Usually it's fine, but just informational thingies like that doesn't. If there is a red X, then it is a bad thing. Down here you have the project files, so everything that you can just drag and drop stuff out into your scene, here into your project scene. Uploaded, it is not when it's down here. It is just uploaded when it's here in your hierarchy, because then it's part of your scene, and the scene is the thing that will be uploaded. The console here shows errors and problems. Yeah, exclamation marks are not so dangerous. Integrations, client sim, runtime, networking, client, blah, 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 warning. Because this call is not awaited execution for the blah, blah, blah. Okay. Client sim player, is never used. Yeah. And these little white boxes here are just information stuff. So everything is fine. Animation is high-level stuff. You don't need that now. Yeah, and you could just click the informations are all true and then just build and publish. You know? You could just build and publish here. Interesting. I wouldn't do that now because we don't have anything in here. So if you have an object, you could, of course, just drag and drop it in here. We have this here now. I would just click A. A marks everything, you know? But we don't need a camera here. We don't need a camera or a light. Yeah, the rest, I guess we need. So we click on File, Export as, usually I like as FBX because Unity likes it the most. We click on Downloads because it's easy accessible. And then I have a VRChat preset that just makes limit to selected objects. So it's just what I clicked in here will be exported. Also apply scalings FBX all. That prevents some weird scaling issues. If you have armature, don't add any leaf bones or stuff like that. That would be automatically on. And then just give it a name. For example, name it Avatar Tower. Very descriptive. And then just on export. And then we could go back into our project and we go into our assets. And then we could just make something like an own folder for it, like own assets or I don't know, own meshes. And then we go to downloads and then we drag and drop the stuff in here and into the scene. And then we have it here free to use. I see. So the windows are not included. That is an export problem, but for now it is fine because I don't need more for a first upload than this here. It is also kind of big because these are square meters. So at least you have here 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just being questionable because 4 of those boxes, usually it was, if I go in here and I go under here, and then, for example, I use the measurement tool, it was 12 meters. So let's do a trick. We create a cube, and this should always be a meter by a meter by a meter. Ah, it's not a meter, the thingy. I see, then it makes sense. Definitely not a meter. When I duplicate it, 2 meters, 3 meters, 12 meters. Then it makes sense. Is fine. You could keep one cube for that you know, oh, this is square meter. So we click on the floor and we deactivate the floor. So it's not there anymore. Oh, the word gets more and more pretty. VRChat world should now be in this tower, kind of in the center, because you should spawn in here. I like to usually spawn a bit above the ground, so you're not accidentally falling through the ground. Then we need, indeed, some collision happening here, because nothing here collides. The avatar tower I like to prefab and unpack completely, so we don't have problems with moving stuff around. So, okay, it's like that. So we have a... You see that there is a thing I made in Blender. This one here. This is kinda... These are the colliders. So with these, I would make a mesh collider. So that with these, you definitely collide when going up. Why not using the stairs? Just because of the polygons? If you go up here, like dip, 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 with every stair, you would like it would wiggle and but if you have just like here smooth planes, then you're kind of like sliding up the stairs, what is way more enjoyable for the players. So, but we don't need to see it. So we deactivate the mesh renderer, but we keep activated the mesh collider. And all these should be static because they will never move. They are always there. Yeah? So here we have the tower. And of course it doesn't look pretty now. I can hear you like, oh, that's not pretty. Yep, that's true. Because it has no textures and also just very simple lighting. I would just delete the directional light we have and just add an own one. So I would just like effects, light. For this inside here, we would have something like torches or so, what is more like a point light. So it is in every direction. I show you a little trick. If you Control Shift F, then it is in place of where you are. That saves time. Right now, I don't have a mesh in here that shows up like a torch. So I will keep it like that. I would change the color indeed a bit more towards warmish color, because a torch would do that if there would be one. In future will be, I guess. For now, it is real time. You could bake it later, but for now, you're happy if you have anything in here. The range can also be, you could just grab here on these points, and then you just change the range of the light source. Right now, it has no shadows. People are telling like, oh, you shouldn't have shadows in your worlds because it's computation hard. But I think we are in 2025. People's computers, if they can't handle shadows, then they should get good. I'm very sorry to say that, but I mean, shadows. We have shadows since 30 years in computer games. So we click hard shadow. Soft are blurred. They are indeed more computational. Hard. If you don't just have one light source, then do soft. But for now, let's keep it with hard. We have a very low poly style here. So hard shadows are definitely matching the whole thing here. And you don't need to do much more. You could also put it on static because light sources usually don't move. You could just put the whole avatar tower here on static. Yes, change children, because everything here wouldn't move. If something moves, like the window thing here, in future is planned to move. So this shouldn't be static if it can move to open. Here's a room behind, totally hidden. And you could do something like create empty colliders. And in here, we create a 3D object, just a cube, because this bean is colliding now. And we bring it up. And then we make the ground collidable. Like this. And then you could use this T, that you can just do this. We make the ground colliding. And a test world, no one can see but you and people with the link. So you can definitely keep it just testing. So how you bring a world out for everyone to see, this is something for someone else. So now you have the ground colliding. And you could just like colliders for create empty room. No. In future, I will also create these colliders in Blender because it's easier and more performant if everything is just one thing. But for now, for first upload, let's just duplicate it and then just building up the walls, because people would like to try to walk through them and then, I found a bug. If I jump off the world's edge, then I'm falling down. Don't you say, Sherlock. Then don't walk down the edge. But usually everyone will make you responsible for your worlds, and people usually don't like to use any common sense. If they can break your world, they will do it. So with some easy things, you could just prevent people to read about it. So for now, I wouldn't think that you need a ceiling right now. Usually you would also create colliding the walls should collide here too. Also for the windows, I would make like stenciling out. Usually, right now, I didn't make the, yeah, I didn't make holes for the windows in here, so I can't make it collide right now. Also, the windows seems to be not activated. Oh, because, okay, it was not open here. So it just didn't. That's fine. I have so much to do here. I have to make all the windows around, all the windows. And then I have to make them holes with the Boolean modifier. This is something I don't show you now how to use Blender. It is, everything is just in a very early phase. But how to make it less unpretty? Let's see. Let's just use this cube here because we just need a collider here to just for, you know, for the sake of it. We also could just activate the other thing again, but let's do it like that. Bzzt. That. So you have a ground to stand on. So the mesh deactivate. Zip. We can also multi-select and deactivate the mesh. There are just a few things that can't multi-select. Everything else should be fine. And it is still a bit not pretty. You know, it is totally fine to use textures that are free available. I have here in Elements, 3D models. I have here texture, and I have stylized from 3D textures, what is completely free. Then castle. I just downloaded a bunch of stuff that I could use here. So, what could we use? I also fidgeted around already with the things because you usually have okay, no, I didn't. Ha! Good! And I can show you. So we need stone now. How about a mossy stone? Because it is an old tower. Why not make it a mossy thing? I don't know. So you have this. This is how it looks if everything is right. You have an ambient occlusion, so nearly nothing. You see the little joints here of the tiles, just very barely. This is the base color, just what it says. The height, we don't need. The height. And the normal, kind of the displacement of the surface. And the roughness. This is usually not working in Unity, because Unity is one special snowflake, and Unity likes smoothness in the standard shader. And the standard shader should totally be fine to use. So we click open. You see all these materials here. Okay, this one has stone and tiles. So stone and tiles we just duplicate out so we can use them. So we have the slots of the materials. There. So stone is this here and tiles is that. And now we can just, we have access to it now. We start with the stone for the walls. So I have a texture program like Texture Assembler. You could do it with every software that does similar things. So you need to know you have red, green, and blue channel and the alpha for PNGs. So we set it to PNG because we want the alpha to happen. And we do a resave. That is totally fine. Then it will just be in this folder here. I drag and drop the base color in the source texture, and then we have the red, green, and blue channel of the color and no alpha. So no opacity. But that is fine. We just grab the roughness for the alpha. And then we invert it, because the invert of roughness is smoothness. Then we save it, and it's done. This is everything you need to do. Then we grab this new texture that has now kind of like opacity, because, and then the normal map. And then we drag and drop this into our project here. You can sort it. You can put it in folders like you whatever you want to do. The color I usually tend to make it 0, 0, 80, 100 as an albedo. Then I just put in here my base texture and my normal map. The normal map is weird because you need to fix that. because a normal map needs to be what is it? Where is it? I always did it per with the fixed thing. There, texture type normal map, because it is non-color. It's just for information. Then on the stone thingy, you use the source of the smoothness is now the albedo alpha, and that makes the correct value here. Is it fine like that? Yeah. You could think, the stones are a bit much. Couldn't it be less stones? Of course, could be. The tiling. How about 2, 2? Then it's even finer. Or just 0.2, 0.2. Then you have big, heavy stone shear. Could use it like that. Yeah. So the texture itself is 10. It's just 1K. 1024 to 1024. I usually would say always click on the textures, then the maximum resolution, click on crunch compression. It makes the upload size smaller on 90, and the anisotropic level to 4, and apply. It is prettier on the textures, on the borders. But yeah, I would say because of the low resolution, the tiles shouldn't be too big. So better keep it at half-half. Yeah, that's better. Then it doesn't get so unpretty by being washed out. And this is kind of like how you do this. Here, we can just change it also to 0080 100, and we go to something like ground tiles. I bet we have something like that here, or have not. What could you use as nice ground? Planks could be, but I thought more about tiles. Don't I have tiles here? More in a desert place, I guess, because deserts, in my opinion, are just more about ceramics. Because I think about, yeah, very sandy colors. Yeah, this year is mostly close to what I thought. Also 1024. Yeah. We go back into this program. You can use any program you want, or just or you don't do it. You don't need smoothness. It just adds a level of fanciness. But you don't really need that. That's just extra. So back to all the stuff here. We save it, and then we use just these maps. Why don't I use the ambient occlusion or height map? For height mapping, you need very much polygons, because it will try to otherwise the effect looks weird, because it would displace the polygons depending on the texture. Also, ambient occlusion, if you nearly have just white, then the effect is so low that you could just let it be. You know, don't make yourself more work. It is already much work to do worlds, so keep it easy, you know? Polish if you have time, but if you don't have the time, just let it be. The extra time. So, also with these, I would make them a bit bigger. Just think that, that this is very big, yeah? So this is 12 meters, because, yeah, so don't make them too large here. Oh, the secondary maps tiling I changed, not the main tiling. That is what happened here. See? Even I make mistakes after years of doing this stuff. So this should be a carpet. And these should also be some kinds of, we could use the same material per drag and drop on the stairs, you know? Could do that. And this here could just be some kind of glass. The different kinds of glass. You could just use it like that. So for the window here, it is totally fine if you just do something like we duplicate the glasses out here. And then we have glass 1 and glass 2. and glass 3 and glass 4 and glass pick. There could be a texture on it in future. I just want to show you a few little tricks to make it more pretty. So for the metal, these are locked, sadly. So let's see. How about we change the material from standard to something like, is here glass? No, is here a specular setup? Yeah. Yeah, we have here a color. I see. So here you see how much of reflection you have. How about transparent or like standard light, particle surface? What do we have here? Yeah, transparent stuff. Unlit. Specular. We can always use fancy shaders that we get from the internet too, by the way. Yeah. Definitely. Nothing wrong with the standard one. Mobile is stuff I guess you need for Quest stuff. I want to dig into that too one day. VRChat examples. Minimap. Okay. Mobile. Toon lit. Is there a fancy? Oh, of course, in mobile there's no fancy shader. But yeah, we could set it up like this. Just that you see, we also could use the light source, point light. We duplicate it, and we just bring it over here. So we have one light in this room too. Would make sense to come from the window right now, but this is all very, very rough, you know. Nothing here is something I would bring out as a world. I would work for 10 hours in Unity to make a world that, you know, I just show you the very basics of a few things. Maybe if you like, I could show you more in future. But this is just the very basic stuff that you need to have anything. So if you do a world, on this point, I would say texture your stuff. Make it pretty, you know? Do something. You get better over time. Also, you could just press the play button to test it yourself. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. So, blah, blah, blah. If you don't fall through the world, that's already fine. You're 1.7 meters. Okay, that's good. So you see now also how big this thing will be. Of course, you can go out because it has no wall colliders now. And you can use the stairs, and it's not like that, like I said, with these ramps. It's nice and smooth. You can jump into here or not because it is too high and I need to do something about it in future. So like a little ramp up here too, so you can go in here. Yeah, I just bugged myself through here. And then you would have here also avatar pedestrians. In future, it will look pretty at some point. And you don't hear anything. It is so silent. We could, before we upload it for testing, also put a little music in here. Yeah, sounds are usually eating up megabytes. So don't use too heavy tracks like 1 hour of nature sounds. That would be totally non-reasonable. You could place a YouTube player somewhere in the background. I even would say that would be something nice. Because everyone, this big camera button. You could click here on the gizmos to make them vanish. Or you just click on the arrow down and make the gizmos a bit smaller so they are not so much in your view. Yeah. Other things about this here. I don't know if you really need this. I usually don't use it. This here is like extra light. So now you have extra light when you look through your scene. If you click here, now it's just the light that is actually in your scene and non-extra light. This I sometimes use. And here you have the shading modes. Everything is shaded now. Now it's just the wireframes of the polygons. Yeah, everything is super low poly here. Shaded wireframe, then you see just both as an overlay. Shadow cascades, render paths. Alpha channel. Oh, not much alpha channel. Overdraw, mid maps. I see. Yeah, I usually don't use this either. It's just a thing good to know, but in most cases you don't need to see all that here. The baked light map is not there so far. Everything is real-time rendered the light, yeah. So this all doesn't make any sense right now. Yeah. Keep it with shaded, I would say. Yeah. Beep, beep, beep. On the camera, I would set the near clipping plane not to 30 centimeter, but more like to 5 centimeters, and the far to 100 meter. Don't set those values too far from each other, because then it causes weird flickering. But I mean 30 centimeter. That is very, I like that people are not clipping away when they're 5 centimeters close. At least not 30 centimeters. 5 might be fine, maybe even 2 centimeters, you know? And just 100 meters, because it will be just the tower, so you don't need more. If the tower gets higher, you could also use some fog in the lighting tab, you know? You could use some fog here, you know? Like, yeah, density. Ooh, spooky. So you don't see stuff clipping away after 100 meters. It is a tower. It could be like that. I could pick the stone color here. Make it a bit brighter than that. You know? Don't know. In the nature, usually it would be more like a bluish tint. If you go outside, yeah. On objects, it's just on objects, because it needs the depth filter, kinder. It needs to know how far it is away from you, and the skybox is kinder always infinite. But in the nature, it would be more like that. You know, the far stuff is away, the more it gets bluish. But in this thing here, it is fine to be gray, like mist, and to be like the stones, you know. Yeah. Could do it like that. Why not? Everything else I would like to change. Not really now. Rendering path. Yeah. Many people want to check forward or deferred. We can just use the main settings now. There are effects that needs one or the other. I would say as a very simple first starting point, it is fine. You can also right-click audio source here. Check. Then you have an audio source here, but it's not just done with this. You also need a VRChat spatial audio source on it to make it work. Then use the volume curve. So it uses this here. And then you can tell, like, yeah, if you have an object that emits sounds, then it makes sense that you have min and max distance. But you could also just keep this spatial blend not on 3D, but on 2D. Then it is everywhere around 500 meters. So we just said from 400 to 500 meters, we could do it like that, you know, and then it would be kind of the same on 3D. Play on awake and loop. Then it would be always on. And static, it doesn't move. And then we put an audio clip in here to play in the background. I don't like to go in worlds and I hear nothing. Everything is just silent. That's so... So what do we put in the background? Something that is not too annoying. We don't want to annoy the people that are visiting us, don't we? So, yeah, music. Let's see. Ambient sounds, D&D. Oh no, D&D are like very big. How about castle? Is there any castle thingy that is not so big? Castle garden. We look into them. Oh, yeah, they're a bit big. Haunted entrance. 160 megabytes. That's a big no-no. Castle. There's all the D&D stuff here. Wait. I haven't searched here. Haha. Okay. Wave is also usually too big. Castle Belgium. I mean, we can peer into it. I don't know. RPG castle themes. We also can search for something like loop, because then we don't hear a click or a weird cut. So when the stuff is already looped, that helps. Yeah, I'm sorry to steal you so much time, but you just see that we have a not very pretty world now. So you understand when I say you need a whole evening to make the very most basic world. And if you want to make a fancy world, you need weeks. And if you want to make one of the best worlds in VRChat, you need a team of 10 people working on it for a year or so. So it's exorbitantly more work the more fancy you want to get, the more polish you want to get in. Isn't there something like that? Okay, let's just kill the loop and we search for castle stuff again, because there should be quite some stuff. Old castle sprite set? No. Old castle RPG castle themes. That could be fine. It is a pack I bought quite some years ago. Desert Citadel. Desert is not what I need. Eagle View Fortress. This is better than nothing. Harpy scored usually is very spooky. It's very, very vampire themed. It could be annoying after some time. Meandering the halls. That sounds nice. Because this harpy scored is a very strong instrument that can be annoying. Yeah, I think this is fine, because you need stuff that is not so it shouldn't annoy your people. Don't take example on how I manage my files right now. Everything is in the same place. That is a no-no, but we just need something now. So this thing in here will make it play on awake, and it will loop. And we have no spatial options activated here, because it is a world sound. It is a music in the world, and it shouldn't come from somewhere. It is just there. In game design, you say something is diegetic, or it is not. So is when you hear a pling, 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 when you collect coins in Super Mario, it is like a UI sound, click, button click sound. It is not in your world, so you have it not in your world somewhere. It is always 2D on your ears. But if a fire is crackling or a bird is humming somewhere and the bird is actually a mesh there, then it can be in the world, and then it makes sense that you have these zones from where to where you can hear it. So we can now just click again here on test. And then we hear the music. So let's see. Enable spatialization. No. I was about to say, like, that sounds awful, because it is not what I said. Yeah. So the problem is VRChat is overriding stuff. So enable spatialization? No, there is no spatialization. Even if here is spatialize not on, the VRChat script is always overriding the shit here. So now it is sounding good. If you are in play mode and you change some values, most of the stuff is not saved when you're back in your edit mode. So keep that in mind. And the point light, I would like to be more like this, because it looks, if it looks like this, then you're like, huh, where is the light source? But if you just look like this and you see the long shadows casted, then it is more like gloomy what is up there. I just like to set up a mood always, even if it's just such a very early block out state and everything is unpretty. So, and now we have a world that is at least good for... my window is not even. Do you see this? The window is kind of like off center. What have I done? What have I done? How could I fix this? I could use proportional editing. And proportional editing like a meter. Maybe like 2 meters. And then I like this, and then I just include 2 axes and like yeah. I need to do this with more fine-tuning, but you get what I want to do here. Okay. Yeah, the word is fine for first testing, you know? A first test with your friends, maybe you just grab them and show them like, oh, look, I plan in future to do a little medieval world where I want to show avatars and stuff like that. And yeah, now you have a starting point. Just put it on here and on there. Yeah. It makes sense that you have something like materials. So all these thingies here, you can just drag and drop where you need them. Then you also create a folder like MX, SFX, also music effects and sound effects. And just drag and drop this in here. You could also go so far that you say you have a folder for textures, and you go from meshes and showing these 2 here are not crunched, because it will save you upload space. It will still be in your graphics card VRAM, but it is quicker. It is better to download a 100 megabytes map that is 400 megabytes in your VRAM than to download a 400 megabytes map when you have bad internet. So think about the poor beans. So, own meshes, I would say you could just kill the own, because nobody cares if it's your own or if you found it in the internet. So, I would say it is okay for a first upload. Also, you might think, isn't it unpretty to have these wooden thingies sticking out here? And isn't the tower from outside ugly? And I would say you're right. This tower is ugly. But I don't build it as an exterior setting. It is an interior setting. You will never leave this tower. So if you don't see those wooden things, but just these here, then it's fine. You know, you build up a showcase. If out of your showcase stuff gets ugly, that is totally fine, because people are not meant to be out here. So just build the stuff so that it looks nice. And then just upload the stuff. You know, nothing bad. Textures use box mapping filtering. Yeah, this is okay. For a first thing, Akinari Avatar Tower. build and publish. Building world. Then it will compile the scripts that are not many now. Also, not just manage your project here down in the project files, yeah, but also here in the hierarchy. Don't do it like I do now. Now it's kind of just a few things in here. But if your stuff gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you see that you can make up a hierarchy here, you know, like a file browser. Don't be, yeah, an untidy bean. And now here checking existing records, starting upload, upload file, upload. That will be longer and longer the more you haven't seen, the more megabytes, the more scripts need to be compiled. A big world can definitely use 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes before it's uploaded. This is totally fine. Signature uploaded, refreshing data, okay. Reminds me to The Sims in early days, and now you can even see it on the website. And it would be like this, because you need to log in again, because we live in a world we have in which you have to log in all the time. So it's now 12 megabytes, and it is private, you know. 12 megabytes is very small, but also not super small when you think that we have nearly nothing in it. If you want to do it for Quest, you need to cap it at 100 megabytes. Can't be more than 100 megabytes. Okay, wrong thingy. So it's private and only visible via direct links, but it is now in your list of your own worlds. And if you go in here, once a week, you are able to publish this on Community Labs, from private to Community Labs. Then it will have a little potions symbol on it, and it can be visited with a filter on it that this is a test world. And if enough people are in it, looking at it, and no one is reporting it for, I don't know what you were doing there, then it will one day be a public world. When you're unhappy, unlucky, then it can take years. But if you tell your friends, you invite your friends to your world when it's done, then definitely can even be hours or a few days. My last word was public on the same evening. I said it in labs, and it was suggestive. So that doesn't stop you from, you know. And what else can I say in this very, very, very first how to start video? I recommend always keep it private until you have something, you know, because no one wants to see a world that is like this here, that is just like flat, completely nothing, nearly nothing in it. You know, finish the texturing, finish the colliders, finish the thing that you wanted to do with it. In my case, adding all the windows, adding glass in the in the windows and holes in the, you know, put the avatar pedestrians in here. This is definitely a thing. Be done. You don't need to be polished. You can update the world. You can always click on here and then just like build and publish again. It will override your build kinda, and you see it now. It's version 1, and it would be version 2 if I do it again. So you can always make it better, but definitely have your, I always say, have your feature complete when you make your world public. Have your feature complete. Your content you can add up in future, but the feature should be there, because what is the sense of the world if your feature isn't there and it's just like an empty space? This is everything I can say in this first video about world making. I'm not the biggest pro, but I have a few years of hobby experiences in this here, and I hope this is helpful for a first start. So the most important thing, have fun.